If you're in business for yourself and you're ready to grow, your first hire probably shouldn't be another salesperson. Now, I remember more than 10 years ago, 7 years into the business, I was working 80 hours a week, 7 days a week. I knew I was at my full capacity to work more. I knew I wanted to grow, but I couldn't just work more. So what do? Should I hire a salesperson? How do I increase my sales? Well, in that time, let's say I was doing 10 hours a week of, we'll call it administrative work. Not to demean anyone who's doing administrative work, but it is not my highest dollar per hour sales work. Not that it's only about money, but my focus, my energy, my heart is in my sales work. That's where my passion is. That's where I make my money. And I was doing 10 hours a week on behind the scenes. Well, guess what? That means that's 10 hours a week that my most impressive, important, effective salesperson is not at full capacity. So people think, let's get another salesperson, let's increase our sales. You just doubled your paperwork, doubled your back end, doubled all the time that you should be in sales. So you actually have decreased your sales capacity from your best trained, most expert salesperson, you. So what do you do instead? Well, it's scary to hire your first person. When I was first ready to do it, having to pay the money, having to do the training, all the time, the energy, it's a lot. And the first year I hired my first assistant, my sales increased by 20%. My value, my joy, my energy all went up, and so did my income, even with the increased expense. So the two concepts that came to me in the same week were, if you don't have an assistant, you are one. And when one of my mentors asked me, how much $20 an hour back-end operations work did you do today? Because if you're not doing sales and you're doing the paperwork, you're in the wrong job. Want the most proven way to increase your sales by 20 to 30% without just working harder? Hire your first assistant. Most people think, I want to increase my sales, so I need to just work harder, burn the midnight oil, hire your first salesperson. You need to hire your first assistant. And so here are 3 ways that I was able to increase my business by more than 20% in my first year having an assistant. One was, most people think when you hire an assistant, you're going to tell them what to do. And I saw that was backwards. I hired my first assistant and she told me what to do. Don't forget to follow this process. This is the paperwork that you need to tag me in and let me know when it's ready. She was the one telling me what to do, so that way I could just focus on hitting the next ball at bat. She was the one telling me where to stand. Number 1, hire that person who's going to tell you what to do. 2, a mastery of behind the scenes. For me, that was a CRM, a client relationship management software tool, making sure that things were filled out, opportunities were checked, paperwork was done correctly. Half the time, there was paperwork done that I didn't even know was in motion. Here's the paperwork, it's done. I get to do the things that I need to do best. Number 2, do the work that you should be doing. Let them do the parts that allow you to get to bat more. Number 3 was support of the way you want to run your business. So a good example for me was, I love being with clients, being with people, being face-to-face. And so we were running some fun events. Well, instead of me having to be calling vendors and worrying about paying the contract and signing the paperwork and even doing research on where to do it, my first assistant was able to do all of that work and present to me in a package, here's option 1, 2, or 3, which one do you want? This allowed me to focus on calling the clients, being with the clients, doing the follow-up, finding more people to invite to the event in the first place, instead of doing the research. So number 3, someone who allows you to do the work that you love to do. And in that year, whether your sales increase by 10, 20, 30%, who knows, doing the work that you love to do and finding the person to support you will help increase your sales. Writing the job description for your first assistant can be overwhelming and exhausting, but the process can be simple, and it starts with working backwards. An assistant's job is to protect your most important, valuable activities. So instead of writing an endless, ever-changing list of activities, figure out what you need to be doing, your most important job. So do what I did. For an entire week, I wrote down everything I did, even if it was small and simple. And then ironically, I was on my way on vacation, I was on an airplane, and I had the list, was 40, 50 things long. And I highlighted the things that only I can do, the things that my business needed me to be doing. Not the things that I like to do or love to do, but the things that the business needed me to be doing as my most valuable time. And how many did I highlight? 4. Just 4. So this way allows an assistant to be creative with their tasks. They are the gatekeeper of you, of your time. And if they understand who you are and why your business is important and what your mission is, they get to be the creative, forever diligent gatekeeper at the front, protecting your time. And if you get to do your most valuable tasks, everything else becomes easier. So do what I did, start with a log, figure out your most valuable time, and perhaps the job description will write itself. So how much should you pay your employees when you're in a commission-based business? Taking on a fixed cost is a very scary thing when your income is variable. So what if we completely broke the mold of how compensation structures are typically offered? So most employee hires are, here's a range or a base we're willing to offer. You make an offer, they negotiate or offer something back, and you find some arbitrary middle in between. Sure, fine. Well, what if you did it backwards, where we say, okay, prospective employee, what does it cost to be you? What is your life? What are your expenses? What are your savings goals? How much do you spend on groceries each week, on rent, your current house? Do you have any vacation plans? Do you have any other family income, any student loans? What does it cost to be you? Plus then, what are your savings goals? We had one employee who wanted to own her own property, own her own building, a 2 to 3 unit multi-unit within 2 years. So we had to build in a savings plan on top of that. What are your expenses? What are your savings goals? What are your lifestyle goals? And then let's make a compensation plan that fits that goal. Not some arbitrary goal, but what if you can say, if you say yes to me, we can work together to hit your goals. You're gonna protect my goals, I'm gonna protect yours. Your incentives are in line as opposed to negotiating against each other. We had a different employee who we figured out what it cost to be her, and we actually found out that we decided to do a split W-2 and 1099 structure. Now, you may or may not be able to do that in your industry, but we were able to create a plan, and then there was a gap, and so we gave a performance-based incentive, which said, if you help us hit our numbers and our metrics, and you do these things, then you will earn those metrics. I can pay you more, and you've earned more. It's a win-win. What if your compensation structure allowed your people to live their best lives? So before you commit to hiring your first assistant, you need to figure out what type of role do you want to invest in the first place. Now, this is a trickier part because you may be coming from a different industry or role, or you may have a set perceived way of how to do business. And what's right for you is going to be different from someone else. And what's right for you today may be different tomorrow. And yet, how you're going to run your culture, your team, your experience, your business, this is the heart and core of who you are and your why. So the next video series I'm going to do is once you have a team and how to create and build a culture and how to create retention and all the things that go into it. But for right now, here are some good things that you can be asking yourself. Am I looking to have an in-person or remote business? The person who I'm looking to hire, do I want them to be full-time or part-time? Am I going to be having them as a virtual assistant or a geographically local hire? Am I going to have them as a 1099 or a W-2? Is this someone who is going to be a contractor and variable cost or a fixed cost? Is this going to be someone who, are you going to go to a service, like if you're finding a babysitter, do you ask around the neighborhood and ask for recommendations and find someone local, or do you go to a babysitting service? There are services that help with assistants and VAs. So the answers to these questions can help guide of where to start. If you're looking for a one-on-one consult on how and where and when you should hire your next assistant, contact me today. So here's why sometimes I want to hire less talent. What do I mean by that? Well, there's what's called emerging or proven talent. So someone who has a great resume, incredible experience, good jobs, sure, that sounds exciting and we'd love to have them when looking at the resume. Whereas someone who has a shorter list, less jobs, less experience could be a scarier thing. Well, this person who has proven talent, they've proven they're good, they have lots of experience, they may be coming in with a lot of bad habits that don't service you and your values. I'd rather invest in someone who has less experience and less proven talent, but they have the talent, the ability, the skills to learn, to grow, to be coachable, to be all in heart to heart, to say we are going to invest in each other. They're going to cost less and they're going to make you more in the end.